If you are early in your career, if you're in college, or if you are navigating a transition in your life that is also marked by some hair changes in your life, then you do not want to miss out on today's episode of Your Hair Made Simple, where we are navigating all things our hair connected to how it shapes our confidence, sometimes for better and sometimes for worse, as we navigate our identity through this thing we call life. So I can't wait to share this episode with you. Make sure you tap in, and it's sponsored by our Nourishing Hair products, our oil and butter formulated to be safe for those with sensitive skin, allergens to tree nuts and coconuts, and navigating things like eczema. You can learn more about that on our site at yourhairmadesimple.com. So go ahead and catch today's episode and smash the like button. All right. What's up, y'all? It's Shannon, and welcome back to another episode of Your Hair Made Simple, where we encourage you to embrace your natural hair with clarity, confidence, and courage. I'm so excited for today's episode because we have with us Trinitee Richards, who is a recent graduate of North Carolina A&T and now works in the tech sector, who has been natural for a while. And she is here to chat with us about how our hair shows up and plays a factor in our confidence and how we navigate the world, which I think is such an important conversation. We often joke about going through something and then changing your hair, but we're here to unpack just a little bit more about how our hair actually connects to our confidence and how we show up. So, Trinity, thank you for joining us today. I will turn it over to you to say hello and then tell us, what is your hair story?
Hello. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm very happy to be here. What you said is really sums me up. I'm a big Aggie Pride girl. I love my school. So if you want to talk about my school, I can talk about my school. Yeah, natural hair and my hair journey has been a very big part of me kind of matriculating through life. Obviously, I'm only 23, about to turn 24, so not super old, but still, even in this certain period of my life, my I feel like my hair has fluctuated a lot, and I'm very passionate about it. That's the one thing that I just really like. I do my own hair and everything like that, and I've always done my own hair for a while. So I feel like that's the one thing like people really know about me. It's like, oh yeah, Trinity, her hair is gonna be on point. So it's always been a really big, important piece of who I am. So I'm happy to be here to talk about it. And when it comes to my hair journey, I came from, of course, your traditional Black household, your mom pressing your hair, or she's taking you to the hair salon to get it pressed. I usually didn't go to the hair salon. I was definitely more of a sit in front of my mom and she presses out my hair and she burns me with a hot comb. So she was doing that, like, growing I have, like, this picture of me when I was a child with my hair pressed out. So she's been doing that for a long time, me and my sister. And my sister got locks, and she kept pressing my hair up until, like, middle school. She decided, "Yeah, we're not doing this anymore. You're gonna have to figure it out yourself." And I kept pressing out my hair, but I just wasn't as good as it as my mom was. And eventually I got tired of like the damage because if I'm pressing my hair out every 2 weeks for years, there's obviously gonna be some heat damage there. So I was trying to transition into being more of a curly natural, which at the time that my mom had, like, kicked me out of her chair, that's when the natural community started blossoming on social media, so I kinda came up right in that groove, and I kind of followed the trend a little bit and was wearing, like, ponytails with these, like, straggly ends, and it was just really bad, and one day I decided it was just nasty. And one day I decided to do like a chop. I just cut off all my straight ends. And since then I've been natural. And then in December of 2023, yes, I locked my hair and I got micro locks. That's what I have now. Best decision I ever made. So yeah, that's kind of how my journey has
Progress.
fluctuated up till, yeah, progressed up until now. Obviously some ebbs and flows in there, but I can't wait to get into those.
Yeah. And I think what you said, right, about like being 23 and 24, but I think there's so many different points at our in our lives, right? Like when we are in college for one. I know like that was a big going natural point for me too. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that was like for you and your story. But even like when you're younger, right? Like your first experience was in middle school where your mom was like, you're evicted from the chair and you need to figure it out. And you're just like, I'm natural, but I haven't cut off the heat damage. So it's kind of like we're out here on vibes, seeing what happens, and then later on in life, people get pregnant or people just get older, like, or life changes, so many different things can happen. So this conversation about how we show up in the world, I think it can really span like so many different points in your life and what you've experienced. Like you definitely have wisdom to bring to that area in that conversation. So I love how you, like, literally went from just being like, "She was straightening it all the time, I might have had some burns, but my hair was laid," right, to now we have micro locks and I'm doing it myself, which, like, you're maintaining them yourself, right? And you started your locks yourself as well?
Mhm, I did. I did not wanna pay the money. It was definitely a broke college student decision, but it worked out.
You know, I too became natural in college and I was like, I have no monies. So I need to figure out a flat twist quickly, right?
Mhm.
Like I need to figure out what I can do for myself. And that was my thing. And micro locks are your thing. And they're beautiful. For those who are
Thank
listening and
you.
not watching, you can see Trinity's picture on the cover art and her hair is stunning.
Thank
And
you.
so, what was specifically the catalyst, right? Because you talked about one thing that we discussed, is like that your hair was really kind of shaping how you were showing up in the world. And so, as you navigated through those different styles, like what was happening internally for you that was the underlying, tone, the underlying current of these different shifts?
Think for me, for some reason, my face wasn't the thing that made me attractive.
Mm.
Like, it just wasn't, like, I grew up with glasses too, and, like, I can't even tell you how many people have called me 4 eyes, and it's just and then I also was really, really skinny, still am, but was even skinnier, I had these long legs, like, I just didn't grow up feeling attractive, but my hair always looked good. So through how I chose my hairstyles and, like, if I decided to switch things up or do something differently, feel the underlying feeling was always, I want to make sure that my hair looks a certain way so that I can be a certain level of attractive because the rest of me isn't doing it. So hopefully my hair can do not a necessarily healthy mindset to have,
Yeah.
but, at that age, that's pretty much all I was worried about and, like, boys and all these other stupid things. But yeah, it was attraction level, and if I feel like I look good was always the underlying feeling.
Yeah, and you called it hair dependency, and
Yes.
right, like, it's because I love that term, and I've never heard somebody, like, call it that way before, but you called it hair dependency. Can you elaborate on how you defined it?
For me, when I think of hair dependency, I think of everything I feel is dependent on my hair. Even if it's not just my own feelings, how I'm portrayed to the world is dependent on my hair. I completely forget about how my face looks, how my clothes look. Obviously, I want those things to look good as well, but I'm forgetting about my face, I'm forgetting about my clothes, I'm forgetting about nails and, all those things. I'm forgetting about my personality, like me just being a good person. I'm forgetting about the strength of my mind. Like I'm an intelligent person. I'm forgetting about these things because I'm thinking that none of these matter if my hair doesn't look good. And I felt like I built up this large dependency on my hair looking a certain way because if my hair like as if that was the first point, and once I pass this level, like, "Okay, your hair looks good," then somebody else can look at the rest of me or get to know the rest of me and like the rest of me, but if the hair is not there, then there's no point in even trying to showcase the rest of myself. I don't know where this came from,
Yeah.
but I feel like that was a constant thing that I faced growing up and why it was, one, hard for me to make decisions, like, change things about my hair. I'm not one of those people that has a different hairstyle every other day and every other week. I'm not one of those I think very long and hard about my hairstyles and what I wanna put in my hair, and also why I stuck to doing my own hair, because if you want it done right, you do it yourself type of thing.
Yeah.
So I liked being in control of my hair because I felt like if I was in control of my hair, then I was in control of how I showed up in the world because that's the one thing that
Your hair was like your agency driver, right? Like, it was giving you agency to control, but, like, what you were controlling for was based on this, like, "This must be done for me to be, like, acceptable." Yeah.
mhm, inevitably you can't control.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because I was gonna ask, like, what because I know, like, there's so many different factors, like, specifically as Black women, when you're showing up in society, even if curly hair, locks, like, especially right, if your hair is not straight, like, let's start there. Like, if your hair is not straight, there's already, like, stigma and bias around that too. I know for myself growing up, like, I wore my hair in braids for the longest time, and everybody's like, "You should straighten it, you should straighten it, you should straighten it." Like, so then my internal note to myself was like, "Well, it's better if it's straight, so, like, I should straighten it, I should straighten it." And I wore it straight, and I wore it straight, and then it got heat damage because I didn't know what I was doing, and I literally went to Europe, the only Black girl on a trip, and I was like, "Well, it has to be straight, I'm going to Europe." Like, there's
Right.
no way I could, wear braids there, right? And it just led to more damage in that process, and so it's amazing to me how sometimes, like, the societal factors around us just kinda, like, feed these things, or, like, you're just in that environment to where it's like, I almost can't even pinpoint because that's just been the climate of an environment, like, that you need to care for your hair in a certain way.
Yes, for sure. It's honestly so crazy how everything around us can really affect us in like you said, in ways that we can't even pinpoint. And I think that's why growing or when I had to start doing my own hair and I was going natural of
Mhm.
what it was back then,
Yeah.
in 2012 maybe or something like that, uh, it was like the natural hair community was just so toxic, and we can get into that conversation another day because that is a whole conversation within itself. But it was very toxic. It was in the beginning fueled with like, "You have good hair." And you
Mm,
don't have good hair, and hair typing was a big thing, and, "Okay, are you for a B? Are you for a C? Or are you like a nice pretty A?" And, like, all those things, and my mom kept getting upset with me because she's like, "Well, you don't have this hair. You're trying to do all these things and buy all these products to make your hair look like this, but you just don't have their hair." And I was in denial about it, and all
yeah.
of that was so fueled by this community that is posing like they're accepting you and they're trying to promote acceptance and acceptance of your hair and all those things, but it still was really just accepting these looser curl patterns. So yeah, we made a step up from straightened hair, but not the step up that we really need.
And it's so interesting because this is a dialogue that I have with some of my friends too. Like, one thing that I like to share, like at your Hairmate Simple, like I literally have shirts. I wish I was wearing it now. I have a different shirt on, but it's like the shirt that I have on. It says, I don't even know if I can get it in the camera. I'm too short. It says, "Good hair lives here. Good hair plays here. Good hair sleeps here." Like like basically like affirming that good hair is here. But I also have a shirt that says like, "Good hair. What grows on your head? What grows on my head?" For that specific point, because for so long it was like, okay, well, it needs to be straight, and then right, like the looseness of a curl, like, really, they're just trying to measure proximity to straightness, and I
Yes.
think more than anything, like, in that time, it was kind of like us unlearning collectively, right? Like, we're unlearning this straightness, but we're doing it and also YouTube was new. So people are, like,
Mhm.
learning in real time and, like, unpacking their bias and also trying to find somewhere to understand and belong, and that is a challenging environment. There's so much information that's out there, and then all the hair types and textures were not being seen on top of now, like, f those 4A, 4C, 3A, 3B becoming more common language when I always say, like, that was invented in the '90s. That was invented in the '90s, like, that specific classification type, but our hair has been around for longer than that. So but it's hard because you're trying to learn and that's what you see, and it makes it hard to really figure out because you wanna belong somewhere, right? And it makes
Exactly,
it
yeah.
hard to, like, figure out, like, where do I belong? When you're trying to, like, match up to other images that you see, if because it's like, well, okay, like, if I'm switching images, like, we're not doing straight hair anymore, like, where can I realign? And
Right.
that is a very challenging thing, and sometimes it's like, well, let me just level set with myself, but we don't always get the room to do that, especially in today's, like, social media now we have TikTok. We didn't even have TikTok in 2012.
Exa
We didn't even have YouTube Shorts in 2012. We were just on straight YouTube, just upload and insert whatever here. Like, honestly, the time warp is crazy to think
Yeah.
about, but it was really raw, and, like, people were raw, and not to say that they aren't now, but we were all very much learning in real time, and so you get some of the, like, not so best learning things. There were some great learning things too.
Course.
Uh, yeah, but to your point, it's like, how do you identify yourself? Because you said is this when you were in middle school, like, in 2012? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're much younger, like, I was navigating that in college, but, navigating that as a younger age in middle school. I have a master's in education, and we often talk about, like, middle school is really one of the points where interest becomes salient, like, how you see yourself in the world, like, is becoming salient. So you're navigating all of those things, and that's a very sensitive place to be in technology that honestly was still being developed, right? Like, you and I both come from tech, so it's like, we're all just experimenting a little bit with this
Yeah.
YouTube thing, and now I'm part of this social experiment while I'm actually trying to, like, socially develop, you know? So, like, what does that actually do, or how does that even shape and inform your perceptions of self?
Exactly, and it's interesting because with the growth of YouTube came the growth of people being interested in watching other people's lives. So, not only were we just being exposed to other people's lives with, like with more social media and you post a picture or whatever, we're now tuning into YouTube where you literally sit down and watch a 20 to 30-minute video about someone else's life. "Yeah, I went to the grocery store and I did these things," instead of out there living your own. So now you're sitting here thinking, "Oh, okay,
Right.
well, this is how like, this is what it's supposed to be. This is the staple." So now everything
Yeah.
on YouTube becomes the staple of what it is, and it spreads across so many things even outside of just your natural hair, but definitely, at least for me at that time, definitely my hair, because my history was full of
Yep.
natural hair videos,
Yep.
trying to learn things. But I also don't necessarily regret it because I see how it could negatively affect someone if they weren't at least somewhat involved in the community of things. It's like my cousin grew up in a very white area.
Yeah.
She was surrounded by many Black people outside of, like, her family, and she wore her hair straight all the time, and it was long, but it was damaged, and here I go, the natural hair champion, being like, "Oh,
Mhm.
you can try this and this and this," and
Yeah.
it wasn't working out, and then she even said that she'll get braids, like, over the summer for swimming in the pool and all kinds of stuff, and she didn't wanna wear her braids to something. I forgot what the event was that she was going to, but she said she didn't wanna wear braids to it because she felt like her hair was too done up,
Oh,
and I was like, "I've never heard that before."
no. No, no,
Too
no.
done up.
'Cause, people were arguing if they should wear braids at weddings, so this is a very
Exactly.
much reverse, which braids are appropriate anywhere, but this is a very reverse,
Mhm.
mindset for
Extreme.
that.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I feel like braids should just be a hairstyle just like any other one. Like the
Option.
same way she's gotten so comfortable with the straight hair because she's surrounded by all these girls that have
Yeah,
their hair is naturally straight. Braids should be just a normal hairstyle just like that. But because she wasn't exposed to these things and she wasn't involved in the natural hair community because she was still denying that her hair is this curly texture naturally and it's healthier for it to be
yeah.
that way. She was just now braids are done up and now you're doing something extra to your hair as opposed to just keeping
Uh,
it its natural way,
because
which is
natural to her was her default setting, which was straight, and because braids required extra work, they were done up.
mhm. And we're forgetting the work that is required for you straightening your hair. But as you straighten your hair more, it becomes easier because your hair just comes out. You wet it and it's straight.
But the term heat trained, which is actually, like, honestly, it's soft heat damage. Soft, because if your hair is adjusting the heat, that means that it's changing something in its natural, like, texture and state. That's so interesting.
Yeah, somebody said that to me as a compliment one time. "Oh, your hair is so well heat trained."
We've come a long way. We have learned a lot, and we still have a lot to learn, right? Like, I think I'm still learning, and sometimes that's all we can, especially depending on, like, where people are in their familiarity or their own journey with themselves
Mhm.
and their natural hair, right? Because I know some people that, like, have maybe gone natural and their curls are still reverting, so they think they have, like, a looser curl texture, and they're like, "This is it, it's so great, everybody should have this texture," and it's like, then a couple months later, it's like, "Actually, we shrunk up a little bit more," and it's like, "Yeah, your hair was recovering, like, your hair was
Mhm.
recovering its elasticity, it was actually healing," and it's a good
Right.
thing, and it's a beautiful thing that you have that stretch, right? And then on the other hand, some people might just have wavy hair, like, we have so many different textures in our head. No one head is gonna be the same. Like, the top of my head is always just a little bit more, like, the curls are a bit looser, and then the back, it's, like, shrinking up, and I'm like, "This is my hair, and I love it," But I had to come to understand that because watching YouTube and just learning from other people, I was like, "I should have the same thing going on everywhere," and that's not my hair. So I have, like, what works for me versus some of my other friends, like, they love wash and goes. I'm like, "I wish I could shake it and go." Like,
Right.
it's not happening for me. It's not doing it for me. But we don't have the same hair. That's
Mhm.
okay. I wanted to circle back, to okay, we talked about, like, the YouTube era, and we're here with you and your microlocks now, and we talked about, like, that feeling that hair dependency, right? And it's almost like you're trying to build your confidence from the outside in instead of from the inside out, if I, like, heard it correctly.
Yes.
So, where was the change, right? Like, in terms of you now feeling confident in your hair, like, feeling confident in how you show up in the world and how you engage, right? So that shift from it being, like, an outward in to an inward out.
Honestly, it's something I'm still working on.
Yeah.
Although I do love the transition into micrologs, I feel like it's somehow kind of fed into that because I just love my hair, and in turn, I feel like I love myself so much more because I love my hair. It it is not as like, sometimes I'll go, like, a long time without a retie, and I'm like, if I was in middle school, I would have never sat in this podcast and with my hair not having a retie, like, I would have
Yeah.
never done that. But now I'm more comfortable with it because I know that this isn't just about my hair. I mean, okay, it is a hair podcast, but it's not just about, like, my hair and how it looks presently on my head,
Yeah.
it's more what I'm having to say about the journey. So I feel like the shifts kind of occurred probably in college once I started growing my own sense of independence. Because in high school, it was like, yeah, I can say these things or do these things, but not much really comes of it because, like, you're still at your parents' house. Like, I wasn't driving, I wasn't going anywhere. I couldn't, like, take risks and see good results and things like that, and
Yeah.
across fields, like career things, school-related things, friendships, relationships, like, those type of things. But going into college, I didn't have, like, my mom to give me her unwanted opinion all the time or, my siblings to, like, ask for advice all the time. I mean, I had friends, but these are new people to me. They don't know me as well. So, I really had to kinda make decisions for myself and see the fruits of my labor truly, and I guess those fruits, I guess, being acknowledged by people and be like, "Oh, yeah, like, this was actually good. Like, this is a good decision. This is something good that you did," built some more confidence in who I was as a person. I
Yeah.
mean, like, "Okay, your mind is strong. You're making great decisions. You're doing good things." So it's not just about the
Yeah.
hair. It's not just about the outer appearance. It's a lot about who you are as a person. And I just became more confident in my personality and grateful to my parents for the person that they raised, and especially because in college you get to see a whole lot of people and a whole lot of ways that people were raised, and it just makes you more grateful for kinda how you were brought up, if that's the case for you. So, I feel like being more exposed to other things and being able to make my own personal decisions and seeing those results helped me kinda build inner confidence. Not that I was trying to remove the confidence that came from my hair, but just kinda building it up more internally so that it could match the level with my hair. And then my hair kinda fell to the back burners, like, I did the same hairstyles every month or so. I mean, I still got a lot of compliments on my hair because for some reason, people really liked how I did my hair. Like, I would do braids and twists and, all the stuff that you go to people
Mhm.
for. So I still got a lot of compliments on my hair, so my hair was still pretty up here on the confidence scale, like, I had a long way to go because I mean, I'm not trying to say this as if I'm complaining about it, but for some reason, the hair just clicked for me, like, I could do hair really well. I think it's just the OCD, I'm very meticulous about
Mm,
parting, and people really like that. So I'm always getting compliments on the hair, but I'm like, "Well, what about me?
yeah.
What about me?" But I feel like going through school and making great decisions for myself and seeing how fruitful they could be, and now transitioning into adulthood and making those same decisions and developing new relationships that have things that have to deal with my personality and who I am and not necessarily the hair that's on top of my head has built a lot of confidence, and still going, but hopefully I can, like, match up to that level and not be so dependent on what the hair is looking like.
Well, I think your answer was really honest. I was about to say honestly, because, right, like, in life we go through changes and phases, and you're talking about going from college, and I want to hear a little bit about, right, like the experience navigating your hair, navigating microlocks and going into the tech sector and all of those things. To your initial response, it sounds like hair was the thing, like, you started to take agency first of, and so you built on something that, people had already kind of, like, fed into you, and you had a skill set, right? Like, everybody's not the best parter, and so it helps, but, like, even still, there was this, like, "Okay, like, my hair is looking scraggly, like, it gets straight, we need to cut it off." Like, they're still navigating these decisions, and it was the first place that you were able to make decisions for yourself and take ownership and take agency, and as you were able to make those decisions, on how you wanted to show up, right? Because it became more than about just my hair looking good. It's like, how am I choosing to show up in this space? And like, how do I want my version of good to be perceived? And then people were receptive to that. And that kind of like added confidence to your decision making that
Mhm.
allowed you to feel a little bit more confident about trying other things or showing up in other spaces.
Yes. One thing that you said that it made me think of this, which I think is just delving more into what you're saying. I I feel like I got that sense of agency first from my hair just because that was the first thing. Like, obviously you're getting older and your parents are gonna be like, I don't want to take responsibility for this anymore. You do it. Like, oh yeah, you gotta do your medical insurance, you gotta do your car insurance. Obviously those things come when you're older, but the hair was the first thing. Like, I'm realizing the hair was the first thing that my mom said, "Yeah, you had to figure that out." Most kids, like, maybe the first thing is, like, dressing yourself, putting on your own clothes, but I went to a uniform school since, like, 4th grade. So, there was no decisions on, like, what I'm putting on to it
Yep.
was the same button down, and so then, like, the most I would choose is, like, the socks I wear, like, it really wasn't anything.
Right.
But
We doing
my
the knee
hair
highs, we doing some low socks. Which one?
and then eventually that got taken away too. So, but the hair was the first thing I truly had full autonomy of. Like, if I wanted to come to school looking a hot mess, which honestly I did. So it's crazy that I cared so much about my hair because if I look back at pictures, I'm like, why would you let me go to school like this?
It was your
But
perception.
yeah, at the time, I felt like I put so much effort into it. So that was my first real thing that I made all the decisions behind besides, like, asking my mom to go get a hair product, but most of those I had to try to find money to pay for myself because she was like, "No." Yeah, I think that was the first real thing that I got to make decisions for myself, so honestly, I've been working and building that confidence up for so long that it can be difficult to kinda match that up later on, but wow, I'm sorry, I feel like
Yeah.
I'm in a session, like, that's a first.
No, I'm like, give yourself some credit because I think and that's okay. Like, this is what look, I like to think that the living room for natural hair, we're here to talk about it because I think, especially a lot of us, we're harder on ourselves, we're harder on our hair, we're harder on how we show up in the world. And, I think there's grace, right? Like, for you to take agency of your hair at such a young age because I hadn't done that yet. And I know a lot of people who didn't do that until later on in life. And some people who are doing that for the first time are maybe that's the way that if you're listening and you've done it, but it's been a while, like you can reclaim agency. Like your hair is something that it's a part of you and for so long society has socialized it to be something separate. So I honestly think that it's beautiful that you said it earlier, you were like, my hair, I've seen it so much as like a part of myself that I had to learn other parts of myself because like everybody doesn't always get that portion of the journey. And so it's about like how do you find the balance, right? Like or the ebb and flows and just recognize when we're maybe a little bit off kilter of saying like my hair is an important part of myself. I want to show up and I want to keep it healthy, but also like that's not the only part of me. And it doesn't like I can leave the house if it's not looking okay, right? Like I can not gonna predicate like my ability to maneuver in this world or navigate in this world. And it sounds like that's really the shift you had when you took over ownership of it and learning it and saying like I want it to look good, but how it looks is not gonna be the sole factor in determining how I engage with people or, like, how I choose which places to go or what I'm gonna do or those types of things.
It's very true.
So I'm curious because I know when we chatted in our like pre-chat, but you shared that you felt and a little bit earlier in the episode too, like that you felt like you were kind of invisible to people that you would like meet people and they would for like basically like reintroduce themselves to you like and you're like no I know you and you've been to my apartment and like before you transition to your micro locks right and so we're already like kind of past being natural and you care for your micro locks yourself which also takes time but talk to me a little bit about that particular shift and how that, like, has impacted your confidence and choice, as well as carrying that into corporate, right? Because going into corporate and going into not only tech, but big tech, um, as another person who's been in that space, like, you really it can make you think about yourself a lot and, like, look at yourself a lot. So, like, navigating those decision makers and really identifying what confidence means to you in those spaces.
This topic. It's my biggest pet peeve. It's one of the most annoying things that I feel like I face in this world. I don't get it. Yeah, in school, nobody really believes me when I talk about this, but I'm like, yeah, I truly felt like invisible. I genuinely people came up to me and introduced themselves multiple times as if they just never met me before. And I was like, I could never really understand. And I always blame myself first for it, and eventually I started blaming my hair and saying, "Oh, actually, no." At the start, it was me blaming everything else, like me blaming my outfits and how I showed up. At first, it was like, okay, maybe I'm just ugly, and that's why people are just forgetting who I am. And then the second thing was, okay, maybe it's how I dress. Maybe, and because I didn't put much effort into how I looked and when I went to classes and stuff like that in college. I'm sweats and a hoodie most of the time. But my hair was done. But I sweats and hoodie most of the time. So I'm like, okay, maybe I need to put more, maybe I need to start dressing like how everybody else dresses that makes them look. But that never really worked because it wasn't me. Like I'm dressing for everybody else. I'm not dressing for me. And then I'm like, okay, maybe it's my hair. I'm wearing braids and twists and all that kind of stuff. Initially I thought it was because I changed my hairstyle. So somebody didn't they knew me from the first time they met me, but then I switched it to something else. But I have plenty of friends that do those same things and change them more often than I do, and they're altered more because I didn't do the sew-ins and wigs and all those kinds of things. It was just braids. So sometimes it's a braid and sometimes it's a twist and sometimes it's a lock, but it all basically looks the same. So I was just very confused as to what it was, but then eventually I felt like it was just a personal thing. Like I wasn't confident in who I was, so I just naturally fell to the back. And I naturally didn't make a statement for myself. Like I didn't to say something and somebody notices me and they're like, why are you talking? Like you not even whatever they want to come up with about
Yeah.
me." So and then I spent time trying to look like everybody else, but that just it doesn't work because I'm trying to stand out by looking like everybody else. Like that doesn't it wasn't gonna work. And then eventually I was a senior and I was like, yeah, I'm going into corporate America. School wasn't right for me. Like something about this needs to change. Something about how I showed up at school needs to change. I'm going into the real world. I need to make more of a statement. I need to feel like more of myself. And I felt like just because of my past and my relationship with my hair up to that point, I felt like what it needed to be was my hair. I've changed a lot of things about my outfit. I've learned a lot about who I am as a person. I got more confident in my looks, my individual looks, but none of that was working. So I was like, maybe the hair is the problem and don't like making hair changes, but maybe I need to find something that really feels like me because the braids and twists and all that kind of stuff was cool for college, but doing it all the time was like, this just feels like something I'm putting in my hair. It doesn't feel like my hairstyle. I wanted to dye my hair, but I couldn't figure out a color to dye it. I wanted to right, to try to make something that was more me, but I couldn't figure out anything until I scrolling on TikTok and I saw a version of microlocks that was different from my own version that I made up in my head for some odd reason, and I was like, "These are really nice, maybe I should try them," and I asked a lot of people for their opinion on it because I struggle with making decisions, my just in regular life, I struggle with making decisions, so imagine the struggle for making a decision about my hair. But I asked a lot of people and I got my mindset on it. My mom said she didn't think they would look good, and boy, was she wrong, and I decided to do and I feel like, honestly, when I decided to do them came around a very interesting time because it was a large shift was coming up. I was a senior in college and I was going to be graduating and transitioning into the regular world. But for some reason, out of all the things that changed about me, I graduated from school. I had a shift in my friends. I got a job. I got an apartment. Out of all those things that changed, I attest my confidence boost to my hair. I don't know why, but I really genuinely do. Like, I feel like once I made that change and if I'm trying to think of it as more of a positive thing, I feel like that's when I really stepped into who I was, and then everything else would follow. And it did. And I feel like I can create the life that I really wanted for myself. That my style and how I dressed, I was confused about it, but I feel better about it now. I'm dressing more of like what makes sense for me internally as opposed to what makes sense on social media. And I feel like all of that came as a result of me changing my hair. And maybe that's just because my hair has always been such a big part of me. So changing that to something that felt like me was the switch that I needed. And I don't know. I'm not a therapist. I really couldn't tell you. But but that did have a very large transition for me, just all around emotionally, mentally, and even obviously physically making that switch. And even while I was in school, I felt like people noticed who I was. And then it was crazy because I put twists in my hair over top my locks, and somebody was like, "Ooh, the twists are eating, like they look so good." I'm like, these are the same that I had all of college, but
Yeah.
totally fine. But then going into corporate America, I was excited because I felt like my locks made more of a statement for me, and I know being known optics is a very big thing in corporate America, like, being recognized, people knowing who you are, people knowing your face, that kinda thing. And then although I grew up in Atlanta, I didn't stay in contact with my high school friends, so I knew I was gonna have to come out here and make new friends. I'm terrible at making friends, so that hasn't really helped me in that area. As far as far as corporate America, it's a struggle because I feel like I stand out too much,
Mm.
and that I've never felt before because I went to a majority Black high school, and I went to an HBCU. I've always been surrounded by Black people. I feel like we're the majority. Like, that's I've always grown up in spaces where I feel like I'm the majority. So going into corporate America, where I'm obviously not, especially in big tech, it's like I already stand out just because of the color of my skin. On
Even
top of
in
that,
I was gonna say, even in one of the blackest offices, in one of the
yes,
blackest cities, yeah.
exactly. Even in one of the blackest offices because my team doesn't is not a reflection of that. And because I'm an engineer, I think there's like 8 Black female software engineers
Mm.
at the Atlanta office. So, I'm just like, in my, at least, smaller environment, when I go eat in the cafeteria, then yes, I don't feel like I stick out as much. Even though, like, I have a young face, I look young, everybody thinks I'm a child, I'm sure everybody thinks I'm an intern. So, I still feel like I stick out in that sense, and then I dress a little bit more casually than everybody else, so I still feel like I kinda stick out. But when it comes to my role and, like, the people who are engineers in my team, I feel like I stick out a lot, and on top of that, the people looking at me and not knowing what my hair is, it makes me stand out more than I would have wanted to. I'm trying to find the positive pieces of that because I have to, because 'cause I'm not changing my hair for my job, and I can't change my skin color, nor would I ever want to. So I have to just find the positive pieces that come along with it, like, as well as what it's beneficial for me as an individual emotionally. So as long as it continues to be beneficial for me, I shouldn't necessarily be worried about how if I'm standing out too much or too little in the outside world, because that's hasn't helped me in the past. Uh, but it has been interesting trying to navigate in corporate America, and somebody definitely I put twists over my locks, and somebody definitely asked me, "Your hair didn't, like, grow overnight, right?" And they were joking, but why make the joke to me?
Well, let's bottle that back up. Just put it back inside.
You thought about it, but you shouldn't have said it, like,
We
a
could
ki
have kept that. Press
yeah.
rewind.
So, I get questions, but it's corporate,
Yeah.
what can you
No. Well, to the first part of your answer, where you were talking about, like, you felt like when you finally change your hair, you don't know why that was the thing, but it sounds like you had already been doing a lot of other work, right, in making choices for yourself, and I know we've kind of talked about, like, hair as an agency space where we are able to make choices, but since hair was an area where you were kind of already, like, beforehand trying to, like, build that up and you, like, took the time to look back in at yourself and your clothes and everything else, like, even the emotional and mindset changes. It sounds like you had gotten to a good place where you were able to come back to your hair and then decide for yourself. So it was like the icing on the cake that just kind of solidified okay, like I am now owning all of these different parts of myself, right? Because you had already done the internal, like, am I showing up for other people or am I showing up for myself? And I think that's a question that a lot of us, when it comes to our hair, can ask. Like, even myself, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm going into this place. I need to wear my hair down more. When I get on to record episodes, I'm like, I should take my twist down. It's like, no, like, this is how I wear my hair, like 99.99% of the time. So, like, this is what we're gonna record in, or this is where I'm gonna go out in. And I think everybody has like that, like, area or that space of reflection. So, yeah, when I heard that, I was like, "No, it just sounds like you built up all the other muscles." So it's like, "Okay, now I can kinda finally revisit this one and just, like, connect it back to everything else." And again, an honest answer about corporate, right? Because I think no matter what your natural is, you're still kind of gonna be navigating to, like, questions or curiosity or difference and things like that. And so, one, like, making the changes and deciding for yourself, because I love that you said, like, my hair this way is good for me and my emotional health. It's also good for our physical health, right? Like when we're bypassing certain processes that have like chemicals and things like that. And so like just keep like looking at it and developing that fortitude of, and I think honestly that's where confidence is built. Like in that, like, okay, well, I learned my confidence in this space and now I have to learn it in this corporate environment. And for so many of us, it's like, okay, well, I learned confidence in this job. Now I have to go to this other job with all these new players, or I went from education to tech, like in a new industry or in a new family dynamic. If people are, joining families, whatever that looks like, making new friend groups, new cities, there's always going to be some type of change where we show up and like have to relearn ourselves in the terms of like that dynamic. And so like acknowledging like what are the things that are going to be best for us and our emotional health, and if we don't know, like doing the reflective work to build that up and then align our hair with that. For you, like it's micro locks right now, and that's amazing. And for other people, maybe it's a big chop. Yeah, at one point for you it was a big chop. At one point for me, like it was just learning to twist, like so identifying those milestones, because confidence, I feel like it's an ever growing muscle, it's like something that we always constantly have to like work at, in a
Mhm.
sense, to maintain, especially in the midst of change.
It's very true. It's very, very true. And I honestly feel like this transition into this hairstyle, I guess, or this hair decision I made has honestly helped me a little bit from detaching from this dependency I've built, because I've noticed that I mean, I have all the things around me that should say I should be dependent on this hairstyle. Like, yes, I get a few compliments on it because yes, I have micro locks and a lot of people have micro locks. I don't know if my timeline has just been switched up because I have micro locks now. So now I think everybody in the world has them. But I've seen a lot of people with micro locks, but I feel like mine look a little bit different just because they're still new and they still have like curly ends, but they're long. Usually you see this for like a shorter length and with the curly still having the curly ends. But with me having started with long hair, it's like, oh, they're long, they look like you've had them for a while, but they still have, like, the curly ends, and that combination is, I guess, a little bit unique. So I end up getting a lot of compliments, and I will post. I have my TikTok, and I have a little bit of a following there. So I'm like, "Oh, okay, you think I'd be Trinity in middle school, Trinity in high school, maybe even Trinity in college a little bit," would have been, like, in comments like,
Thanks
"Okay,
so
do
much.
this."
Here's
Like,
all the
"Okay,
food.
you like my hair, oh my gosh," or like, looking for the negative ones and being like, "Oh, like, why don't they like this?" Or maybe I should try this differently. Or the Trinity from back then will probably like go hone in on this social media following and be like, "Oh, I need to start posting content and this and this and this so that I can get more of these compliments, or I can
Mm,
hear more about they like my hair, or I can maybe get some feedback and try these different things." Or I feel like I'd be very consumed in my TikTok because it is solely focused on my hair, and that's always been my focus about myself. But like, I'm not no. It's like, no, I
yeah.
post it because I think it's fun. I wanna make a video of my hair, edit it, and post it, but I have no intentions of keeping my following or increasing my following. I have no intentions of interacting with my followers. Like, if somebody messages me for assistance and, like, they ask some questions, they have some questions they wanna ask me or something like that, I am more than willing to reply and help people with that because obviously, as we've seen, I'm a yapper and I like to talk. And I like to give people advice, the advice that would have helped me when I was making this decision. But I have no interest in, like, trying to, stay up to date with it
Yeah.
and every week, and so I see that difference in myself, and I feel like that just goes hand in hand with this built up confidence. I'm not requiring this outside validation for me to feel comfortable and confident about my hair. I don't need to consistently post to make sure that my hair still looks good as it's transitioning, as it's getting older and
Yeah.
locking, getting more mature. I'm not required to keep posting about it. So I know that people still approve. And I feel like that has shown me a big change and difference in how I emotionally feel towards my hair. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, I still really love my hair and want and need it to look a certain way before I step out. But I'll walk out the house and not even know. I bonnet off, shake, and go a lot of the times. And I'm like, oh, oops, I forgot to flip my hair to the side or something like that. Which
Yeah.
is really healthy for me and where I started at.
I was gonna say, I think it sounds like you're at a place where you're caring for it, but it doesn't feed your ego in the same way, right? Like, it doesn't feed your confidence, it doesn't feed your sense of belonging in the same way. And so I think that honestly sounds a little bit different than the dependency because it's not fully like, oh, I we all have our preferences, right? Like, we all have our preferences, like, I know I have certain styles, like, "Okay, well, if my hair looks like this, I'm just pull it back in a bun or, like, do these certain things." But it's not the sole determining factor anymore. It's not feeding
Mhm.
your ego, it's not driving your decision making, and it's not driving how you show up with people in certain spaces. And I think, for like people, maybe they don't have a big following, maybe they're kind of like the reverse, right? And like they didn't have a good relationship with their hair for a while, and now they're like trying to figure out what that could look like. When it comes to confidence, it sounds like it's really detaching from the external validation regardless of, like, what your hairstyle is, right? Like, regardless of, like, are people complimenting it today? It's like, am I complimenting me today? Like, are people
Mhm.
saying X, Y, and Z? And it's like turning those same questions back inward and doing that gives the space to say, like, okay, like building a healthier relationship with your hair.
Yes, I love that.
Well, we're about to start wrapping down our episode. This has been such a fun conversation. So, two final questions. The first one being if you could give any advice to somebody who is just really trying to navigate how their identity and their confidence interplay with their hair journey and, center more in on themselves and find more of themselves, what would you share?
I think the most important thing is if you are trying to figure out what hairstyle works best for you or what you feel most confident in, a lot of the times what helps me is to maybe give somebody else 2 possibilities and see which one they pick and see how I feel about it. It doesn't matter which one they actually picked. If they pick the one you subconsciously don't like as much, then you'll feel that, and you know that this other one is probably what you wanna go for because that's genuinely where it I don't know what the word is I wanna say, but that's generally
It's
what.
just like your internal guide, like where like your internal compass is pointing you towards what you want. And you
Exactly.
know what you want. And so it's just like putting it in front of you because now you're viscerally reacting like either I do go for what I want because I'm feeling it or I don't.
Mhm, and even trying out a new hairstyle and looking in the mirror and seeing how what's the first feeling you get when you see yourself with said hairstyle? Because if you don't like it and it's something that is, like, all over social media or something that somebody else recommended to you, but the first thing you feel is not like, "Oh, I love it," then don't there's no point in trying to step outside in something that isn't you genuinely. But if you try a hairstyle or something for your hair, a hair color or something like that, and you step in the mirror and you're like, "Yes, this is amazing," then at least you've made that decision for yourself first
Yeah.
before anybody else can see it, before anybody else can form their opinions. And then you just have to take that original feeling, maybe even take a picture, write down what you felt when you first, I
Yeah.
and take that into whenever you decide to ask for an opinion or if somebody else gives an opinion that you didn't ask for. You can stay true to that original feeling that you felt because that's what's the most important, and how everybody else sees your hair is not as important. But once you become confident in the hairstyle that you do have, everything else will follow. Like, if you walk with confidence, nobody is really gonna say anything. Like, maybe your hairstyle isn't the one that they would choose from themselves, but if you're walking with confidence in that hairstyle, it doesn't really matter, and their opinions didn't matter to begin with, but they will probably cease to exist because of the confidence that you're exuding. So, just making sure that the opinion that you care about most and that you hear first about your hair is your own and not somebody else's.
I love that. That's so good. When I did my first twist out myself, I did it at home. on summer break where I was like, I don't have to leave the house for a week if this doesn't go well, but I just need to get used to how this looks." And I was like, "All right, we're gonna keep trying it." And, now we're here, and literally this same style was the first thing I ever tried, and now it's like the style that I wear all the time with significantly more confidence. 'Cause I
Right,
built the reps, and I just went out into the world with how it looked at that time.
right.
Yeah.
Got to, yeah.
Yay. Okay, then the last question, which is my favorite, is if you could say one affirmation to your hair right now, what would it be?
An affirmation to my hair. I wanted to say the very basic one of, like, trust the process, but it genuinely does feel like that, like,
Yeah.
trust is like I don't know if it's necessarily an affirmation, if where it's more like a if I'm, having a deep conversation with my hair, just bear with me and trust the process because I'm gonna get there and we're gonna get there together, you know? And honestly, my hair is I guess if it truly is an affirmation, this is the hair you're the hair that grows out of my hair and you are out of my head and you're beautiful regardless. Like every single new piece of hair that grows out is a beautiful, amazing piece and it's gonna grow out the same every single time. So I just need to learn to love my hair and not try to change my hair into what other people would love. So I guess if my hair was a person, it'd be stay true to who you are and just wait for everyone else to
Yeah.
accept you for who you are as opposed to you trying to switch it up to be accepted by everyone.
Yeah. No, I love that. The what I was caught on was the beautiful regardless. Like, that
Mhm.
regardless is important, right? Because it's like we can accept our hair in every state that it presents itself in. Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, this has been such a fun conversation, Trinity. Thank you for joining to just share your journey, share how you've been navigating like identity, navigating confidence and what that means to you, especially as you transition through seasons and through spaces. So many of us are always in transition. So I think it's definitely something that people can relate to. And so for those that are listening, thank you again for rocking with us through the episode. And until next time, remember that all hair is good hair and your hair is good hair. You can stay connected and subscribe to keep updated on the show. And if you want any of the merch, we sell that on our site. If you want to redefine good hair and get a nice tee so you can let people know that good hair is what's on your head, you can grab one of those on our site, also in the description. Alrighty, until next time, friends. Bye, y'all.